The meeting tonight, I wanted to take a moment to recognize that today, January is Board Appreciation Month, not in Vermont. In Vermont, we celebrate it in February, but nationwide it's celebrated in January. And I wanted to take an opportunity because I know this past few months have been difficult for everybody. So just an opportunity to thank each of you for the care and commitment you give to this district and the 5 towns that you represent. I know we're going to have some board seats open so that people know that we appreciate our board members. It is hard work, but it is work that really is important for our communities. So board service is often demanding and sometimes difficult, as we know, but it is deeply meaningful. And your willingness to lead and ask our questions and make thoughtful decisions on behalf of our students and communities do not go unnoticed. And I am grateful, and we are all grateful for this partnership. I know that it is a really important moment in our district, and the continued dedication of the staff and the community for being here is important. Your willingness to get involved in really hard conversations and understand and help that so that we can together help shape the future that reflects both the shared values of our communities, but also provides the educational environment that embraces the whole child is important to all of us sitting here and online. Before we move on with our agenda, I also wanted to acknowledge that today's governor's address was difficult to listen to. And it raised real concerns and emotions, particularly as we here are working really hard on our budget. I want to be clear that we know how hard our administrators and staff are working, and we are being responsible with our resources and making thoughtful decisions, and we're doing our very best to support our students while honoring the trust that our communities placed on us. So thank you again for your service. I also see that Jody has joined us. Before we open it to public comment and we give it to Jody for a presentation, there's a couple of adjustments to the agenda that we need to make. I would like to add, if the board agrees, move 5.1 to 5.2 and start 5.1 with appointing a temporary clerk for our district. And then the last one is where you see 5.5 is that approved school choice numbers. We had put that in advance because we didn't know if we were going to have time at our past board meeting, and we did get it done and then didn't catch it on this agenda, but we have done that already. So if you could just cross 5.5. Am I forgetting anything else, Stephen?
No, I think that was everything.
Okay, so could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Thank you, Chris. Second by Keely.
Chris, you're going to...
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, so now we can move into public comments. Are there any members of the public or online or in person that have a comment tonight? I see 2 hands. I'm gonna start with you in person. Sorry, I don't know your name. Please introduce yourself. We're gonna get you a mic so that we can hear you. Introduce yourself. Yeah, right there.
Is it okay to bring a chair? I'm a tall person. Or can I lift
Oh,
it up?
sure.
Okay.
We're very
And just make sure that to turn it on.
Okay, check.
Oh, it's on already. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. My name is Shane Hinckley. I'm a resident of East Montpelier.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I am also a music teacher in a neighboring district, and I wanted to take a brief time tonight to really do 2 things. I wanted to take time to acknowledge an incredible legacy that I think our community has had in regards to music, dating back as far, for me, thinking of Tom, Kate, and Dan Boomhauer and some of those folks at U32. Tom Kate was a mentor of mine. There's been some really remarkable things that we've been able to achieve. And it's having said that I wanted to express my concern that I've been observing over the last handful of years, a reduction in FTE, not just at U32, but in the surrounding districts in regards to music. And I'm concerned that this incredible legacy we have is in jeopardy, and the way that might manifest itself in central Vermont. So with that in mind, I've brought a couple of copies of this. It's not enough for everyone on the board, but I'm happy to leave it here. These are the National Opportunity to Learn standards that are presented and created by the National Association for Music Education. They outline what a quality program should look like. And I would really encourage the board at when time allows to take time to look through this document and just take stock of where we're at and where we're going to make sure we can do the most for our kids moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you also make sure that Jen Miller, our son, gets a copy of that back there? She's waving to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Noah, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Noah Weinstein from Worcester. Happy New Year, everyone. I think that one of the agenda items this evening is going to be to talk about planning for the community engagement, the informational sessions about potential reconfiguration and the Worcester and Calais votes. And I just wanted to put out a request that that both communities that are involved in a particular merger are both invited to the same meetings, and ideally to have sort of one meeting at each school. So for example, with Worcester and Middlesex, I think it would be great if we had one meeting in Worcester that the Middlesex families were also invited to, and then one meeting at Rumney where the Worcester families would also be invited. I think it's important to have the two communities start to get to know each other, and even particularly for the Doty families to be able to see the layout of Rumney, maybe even have sort of a tour as part of the informational sessions, because I think that right now there's a lot of unknowns and sort of, mystery can be anxiety provoking, and to be able to sort of just show people, who your children would be going to school with, or at least the families, and where they would be going, I think could be really beneficial on both sides. So, so I'm speaking specifically to Worcester and Middlesex. I think probably the same might be true for Calais and East Montpelier. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Noah. Emily, welcome.
Hi, thanks Noah, and thanks Shane. I think I'm an East Montpelier parent and part of the community. I grew up in Calais, and I just also want to say that there's a lot of families and a lot of community members who want to be super welcoming and look towards this as an opportunity to help retain a lot of programs. And I just want to, as a lot of the community may be listening and paying attention tonight, remind people that the choice that we have to make with this vote is a choice between buildings and teachers. And I think that it's an impossible choice, and it's a really hard decision to make, and it's very political. I get that. And it's very, I get that it's very personal for a lot of people. I feel that. And I know that it's not my school that's the one being, proposed to be closed, so that it feels unfair, but it is the school that I went to and that I grew up going to. So I think, I just want to put out a welcome mat and say that I hope that we can all come together in this and recognize that nobody wants to lose teachers, and we would be able to retain many more teachers in all of our schools if we vote to close the buildings but keep the teachers. And I just want to try to simplify that message, because I know that the vote that's going to be put to the town is going to simply say, do you want to close your school? And that sounds very scary. So I kind of wish it would say, do you want to keep the teachers? And that's, I just hope people hear that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Emily. It says Bloom. I'm assuming it's you, Deborah? Yeah, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, thank you. I want to echo what Emily said. I think this is, but happen chance, Emily and I are part of the same community, although our kids go to different schools right now. And I think it's a great example of the community that does exist, and the community that I know we're all looking forward to nurturing in potentially different buildings. I just want to again remind the board and the community that our focus here is about educational outcomes for our children. And And I just want to remember that that's our North Star, is how do we as a community support and prepare our students for the future that they all deserve. So just a reminder to everybody that the education of our children is really, that's our North Star here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Deb. Okay. I don't see any other hands. Oh, all right, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm tall or short, but I'll raise this up a little bit. Yeah, it was a bad joke. It's okay. I wasn't going to speak, but I will say that from listening to the community over the last year, I think there's, people have to respect there's a difference in when people talk about education and the quality of education and what the kids are getting. People have a different perspective on that. For some of us who've lived in the community a long time and didn't go to this school, but I've been involved with this school with many different hats. The people I hear from in the community feel that kids between pre-K and sixth grade get a lot from being in a community school. So when I hear the argument that this is about kids getting a better quality education, I just want to encourage all of you, even though the vote's now up to the towns, to understand it's a different perspective of what you're really getting when you're going through K through 6. As I've thought about this, I thought, how would East Montpelier do? Because this school was built for 258 kids, and I was involved in that bond vote. If we just flip this around and we have the East Montpelier kids come over here, we send the East Montpelier sixth graders. You know, I think there are definitely different sides. And I think everybody I've talked to respects the fact that all of you have one of the most difficult jobs of being on a school board. It's one of the jobs I said I'd never want to undertake, because you get 1/3 of the people who agree with you, 1/3 who don't, 1/3 who honestly don't give a damn. So it's a difficult position, but I think it's important not to be appear to be righteous about different perspectives about what's the best education. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into our agenda. Oh, one last public, go ahead.
Cynthia Gardner-Morse. I grew up in Calais and live here still. At the last meeting, there was an amendment, I think, as you were voting to take the vote to the town, and the wording of the vote, as I'm reading it, what I think is going to be sent to the towns, doesn't seem to reflect that amendment, which had to do with will you honor the town's requests. And so I just wanted to know if that amendment was heard. I listened to the recording, and it's still not clear to me exactly how that came out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, absolutely. And we'll talk about it when we're doing the update, but I can also just clarify, we usually don't do the back and forth, but I don't want any misunderstanding. So the amendment was a separate vote. It's still, we completely believe, but we didn't make it part of the warned agenda, the warned article. So it is a vote that the board did take, but it was not part of the language for the warning. So that's why it's not shown in the warning. But it is a legitimate vote of the board, if that makes sense. Okay. Now we're going to move. We're going to talk about all of that, I promise, Barry. We're going to get into that when we're talking about the next steps. Okay. We're going to move into the presentation. Jody, welcome. I'm sorry you couldn't be with us in person, but I think Stephen has a presentation ready.
Yes.
For you. Welcome, and please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Jody Emerson, Superintendent Director of the Central Vermont Career Center School District. I am so sorry I'm not there in person today. I've unfortunately been homesick, so didn't want to change this. It's my annual visit with your board for the presentation of the Central Vermont Career Center budget.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share that now, Jody.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to the mission statement, which is next.
All right.
I'd just like to start with a reminder of the mission of the Central Vermont Career Center, our school district. Our core purpose is to support and prepare students to thrive as active members of the workforce in a diverse society. We achieve this through programs that prioritize rigorous, safe, and experiential learning. Our mission is a commitment to our students' futures, and they're your students as well. And we are dedicated to creating an environment where our students can explore, learn, and grow. Experiential learning is particularly a part of career and technical education, and it plays a crucial role, allowing our students to apply their knowledge in real-world settings, bridging the gap between theory and practice. You can go to the next one. Our board goals remain unchanged from the past. So they've been very consistent. Our goal is to serve all eligible students in the region, addressing limitations posed by our current facility. As you're aware, we recently had attempted a bond vote. We currently have a work group that is re-exploring every option that we looked at, and also exploring a couple of new ones that came about from potentially people in your district or others across Front Porch Forum and different venues, to make sure that we can clarify all of those different options and ensure that if we move forward with another one or that same one, that our community is more informed, because it feels like communication was a barrier for us, which has been one of our goals, to make sure that we improve our communication to engage stakeholders effectively. And clearly we haven't done that yet, so we're keeping to work on that. Our board is also looking to move towards short-term ways to increase capacity as well. And I may talk about that, or if you have questions, I can speak to those. And then finally, providing equitable and rigorous programs through enhanced curriculum instruction and assessment that includes safety, which is fundamental to our programming, given the tools that our students are often working with. You can go ahead to the next slide. In our budgeting process, we focus on 3 key areas: student-related issues. We need to optimize classroom space to meet increasing student demand, our state regulations, the anticipated state funding. The base rate for us is projected at $13,227, which is a 4.4% increase. We also consider the rising costs of benefits, just like you do. Health insurance and dental both going up this year. The economic factors: we have increased costs from our collective bargaining agreements, and supply expenses also impact our budget. So these are things that we are continuously looking at, as well as attempts to grow for the students that are demanding access. You can go to the next one. Our FY27 budget allocates 70% to salaries and benefits, which is consistent with school district averages across our state. This investment in staff is crucial for quality education, and even without program expansion or increased staffing, the baseline budget will rise due to those anticipated salary and benefit increase, alongside facility costs and supplies. You can go to the next slide. The next 2 are just a look at our budget, first by object code. So you can see that salaries, the benefits, the professional services, property services, supplies, equipment, by object code. And then the next one is by function. Just a couple of different ways that look at how we're spending our $5,472,467 that we're requesting for next year. Go ahead to the next slide. One of the things we think about is the discrepancy between our current FTE counts and our billable FTEs. So while we expand, it takes a while for our billable full-time equivalents to catch up, because we work on a 6-semester average. So it's a complex funding formula for every school, and ours, of course, is different than yours. Our enrollment changes can cause discrepancies one way or another for you or us. Part of the reason that our funding formula was set up this way was to make sure that districts like Washington Central wouldn't see big spikes from increasing enrollments over a year, or if you have a year when you have a lot of students, and big decreases in years that it'd be a little bit more predictable. So as we're looking at our budget, we try to analyze the impact, assess how those discrepancies affect our resources and planning, build a flexible budget that accommodates both short-term and long-term needs, adjust revenue, and explore additional funding options. We prioritize essential services related to current FTE needs and sometimes delay the non-critical expenses until we can get those FTEs more in alignment. So those help us to be a little more responsive with our budgeting. You can go to the next slide. This one is our enrollment, so you can take a look at how that has changed over the years. The headcount is the real-time enrollment. The FTEs are the full-time equivalent that can be counted in the 6-semester average, and the billable FTE is the actual 6-semester average that we're able to bill on. And you can notice that the FTE and the headcount can be different. Often that's because we have adult students in our programs as well. So you can see there's been at least 2 adult students each year that are changing the headcount versus the FTE. By law, we can only charge up to 40% of our tuition for adult students in our day programs. Also in this, you can see that we have closed the design and fabrication program. The Emergency Services 2 program is still on pause. However, students in our Emergency Services 1 program can access advanced EMT and paramedicine through our new adult ed program that we have in EMS with District 6 and 8. And we have a new program coming in next year, early childhood education, which I'm pleased to say we have 14 student applicants for already. We're looking for an instructor, so if you know somebody who might be interested, send them our way. If you look at our capacity for next year, it is assuming that we fill every single program that we have and that we have 5 co-op students in each of the programs that we have co-op for. So automotive, for example, we are allowed to have 16 regular students in, and we could have 5 additional co-op students in there. That's a limit based on the staffing that we have. We do have to have a half-time lab assistant in any program that exceeds their state mandated capacity. So that's 16. If we exceed that on co-op days, we need to make sure we have a lab assistant in there 50% of the time. Sorry. You can move to the next slide. Let's see. So for this year's budget, when we were looking at that, we looked at the priorities. And so we did hire an extra electrical instructor last year so that we could expand our electrical program a little bit, and they could work alongside our existing electrical technology teacher. And next year we'll be able to have 2 full separate programs. A lot of our students who had applied for electrical, because that was the highest demand class last year, went to Randolph. So we filled our program, even expanded it and filled it, and also filled the Randolph program last year, or for this current year. So we are expanding that. It includes the new early childhood education program, and it includes an updated desk collection system in building trades. And we will continue to work with this work group, which is volunteer, by the way, and this volunteer group is meeting every single Monday until the end of March to present something to the board in April. So what a dedicated group, trying to really flesh out all the options and make sure whatever we move forward for continuing to meet student demand is going to be well understood by our communities. You can go to the next slide, Stephen. As you can see, our current tuition for FY26, our current year, we are in the lower third of all of the CTEs across the state, and we anticipate that we will stay right in the same position that we're in right now when we look at next year's budget. That $5 million budget that I talked to you about earlier, the $5,472,467, is approximately a 7% increase. But when you look at the tuition increase for us, it's a 4.9% increase in tuition. You can move to that next slide. Some of the revenue sources we get a vocational ed support grant, we get state tuition reduction. That voc ed support grant is the off the top, so it comes out of what would have gone to you for those students. For that 6-semester average of students, it comes to us directly. We have some state salary assistance, and we have adult tuition and some business revenues. So those are our revenues. And so the remaining amount is what we have to raise by tuition. Go ahead, Stephen. So our total tuition for FY27 is anticipated to be $21,874. Our board will adopt that next Monday when we meet, and this budget. When you take away that on behalf payment that's paid directly to the Career Center from the Vermont Education Fund, including the Vocational Education Support Grant, state tuition reduction, and salary assistance, the remaining $10,366 is what we bill tuition per your 6th semester of FTEs. Go ahead to the next. That's it. So you can stop that, and that way, if there are questions, I can answer that.
Thank you, Jody. Any questions from board members? Go ahead, Daniel.
Thanks, Jody. I was just curious, what would the process be to have a shorter, like for instance, a 3-semester average for determining your FTE? And if that's something that is worth pursuing in your opinion?
That would be a legislative decision. They're the ones that created that. And I anticipate that will be one of the things that does get discussed in the discussion of education spending in Vermont, and also CTE. I believe that the Senate Education Committee is going to have some sort of proposal related to career and technical education. I'm not yet sure what that will be. The agency will continue to push for a statewide CTE district.
Thank you, Jody. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Hi, Jody. Thanks for coming here. You said before that you would tell us about some short-term space expansion that you had in the works or were thinking about. Can you explain describe what those are first?
Over the past couple of years, had conversations with the owners of Allen Jones, which is a automotive shop across the street from Spalding High School. And they are, again, interested in potentially selling to us. And we understand that there is a federal grant that could allow us up to $20 million that may be able to pay for a property such as that to be purchased and renovated. And so we were looking into that for short-term options.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Jody. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. And
Thank you so much for having me. Have a
Get
good
well.
night.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, now we're gonna move into Stephen, budget.
So this is not a formal budget presentation. So this is just, I'm going to give you some information just to bring you up to speed on some things that have happened since the last budget presentation. Suzanne is here as well with us. We can answer some questions. So I'm sure that there's been some questions that you've thought about over the last several weeks. But I do want to start with just a few of the positives that are in our budget. The first one is that our long-term weighted average daily membership only went down by 151 students, which is better than the 166 or the 192 that we thought it was at one point in time. But it is still a significant decline. The positive here is that it's not as significant as we thought when we estimated the last budget. So that will help ease a little bit of the budget, and so that. But it's not a windfall of millions of dollars, just so we're clear on that. But it does help us a little bit. The other thing that we've done, we're preparing a draft 3, essentially. So that draft 3 of our budget, and I outlined some things that our leadership team was working on in the memo, is just making sure that our programs are substantially similar across all of our schools, that our staffing is meeting our MLSS needs. Are there any tweaks to that? We're looking back through things like our special education services and looking at do we have the right number of paraprofessionals for the needs that we see in the district. And so that's the the draft 3 is looking at a few of those things. We also were able to look at our draft 3 and say where are some small gains that we can make in that. One of them is we know that there's been a request for more pre-K time, and so what we've done is we've moved our pre-K from a 4-day-a-week program to a 5-day-a-week program, so that our pre-K program, it's still half days for pre-K, but it's also the Community Connections programs will make that a full-day program, and that's so our families now have access to a full week of pre-K and don't have one day that it's not. And so that is a small change that we place in this. And I also need to just reinforce that our draft 3 budget is built upon the board's vote for a 3 elementary school model and a 712 U32. So that is what draft 3 is looking at there, and that is as a result of the board's configuration vote. And so these are all of the, should we be in this situation, should the situation change and that we don't, we have contingency plans that we're working on as well around the budget. And so within this budget, I tried to provide you with a little more detail around what were some of the reductions that we saw at U32, so that you could see those, and some information about staffing. Staffing is a difficult one to show exactly where it is and what it is, because it's rather complex. I can tell you from sitting for a day with HR and just making sure where are our people located versus where are they in a budget. That's that function code versus location code that can be a little bit tricky for us. It's not that we don't know where people are, it's just how we pull that data is sometimes makes it a little difficult to look at. I will stress that no matter what budget we look at, there are reductions in staff, both teaching, administrative, across the board. There are reductions primarily because of our declining enrollment and the needs that we don't have anymore for some of our classes. But it is still substantial reduction. We have approximately 320 employees right now. Most of our budgeting is putting us somewhere just above 300, so 300 to 304 employees in our budgets. And so that's kind of where we're at. And I think just as another positive, I think Jody was a little bit hesitant to speak to this, but the pre-K programming that we're looking at and her early childhood program that she's looking at, we're looking at being the lab site for those students to be able to work with our pre-K students. So we're trying to do some joint work with CVCC there, and we've been working on that as part of our next piece. A couple of things that we can see in the 3-school budget that are positives and additions within the elementary schools is making sure that we have band and chorus available for 5th and 6th grade, 4th and 5th grade in the future, but 5th and 6th for now, which has been what we've been offering, so we can maintain that within the 3-school model. And one of the things that we saw is that within the funding formulas for the elementary schools, we can look at having additional support for building the functional skills of our students. So this is an area that we've seen a need for, and we're able to put that support into the budgets as well. And so we are seeing some places where we can make some small gains in that. And I'll still put the big caveat that U32 still has significant cuts. Part of that is because of the declining enrollment and the class sizes that we're doing there, but there are deeper cuts within U32's programming, and you can see that in the chart that I gave you around where we would have additional cuts to be able to meet our budget obligations, because that 151 student, or that weighted student loss of 151 students is pretty significant for us still. And so I wanted to give an opportunity for the board to ask questions, and hopefully we can answer most of them, but it also helps us create answers for when we bring you a final budget in 2 weeks.
Okay, so questions from the board. I just have one small detail, Steve. In the memo, there was a typo. It said K to 6. It's pre-K to 6, right? 3 elementary, pre-K to 6.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead. Hi, Kaylin.
Two questions. One, I understand going forward with draft 3, assuming 3 elementary schools, and I also know that in the discussions we're going to be having in the next month, a lot of questions will come up around, what things look like 3 versus 5. So should we just reference 2A for the 5-school model?
So I would say that 2A is the closest representation to what we would have should we have a 5 elementary school model. And so I think there would be some adjustments. I don't want to say that it's exact, but that would be the closest approximation of what we would have.
And then I just have a specific question about the late bus reduction in days to 3. That means late bus will only run 3 days a week?
Correct.
And what impact is that going to have on participation in co-curriculars?
So we would have to adjust the scheduling of athletics and co-curriculars, some to be able to meet those days. What we looked at was the data over time as to when were the late buses most used. And so we cut out the 2 days that had the least usage for that. But it will mean that there's some adjustments to some of the schedules of what can be done when for kids.
Meaning that things wouldn't happen on the days there weren't late buses?
Some things may not happen. I don't want to say everything, but because there are still activities that will go on, but there will be some that will only be able to be held easily on the 3 days in which we have buses.
So theoretically, kids won't be excluded because there won't be late buses 5 days a week anymore.
I'm not going to guarantee that because there are possibilities that a student could be excluded because there's not a late bus on every day. But they wouldn't be excluded for all days, right? They would be able to attend the days that we had the late buses.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Stephen? Ursula?
At the time of the memo, the number of long-term average daily weighted students was not yet final. Is it final yet?
Yes, we finalized
151 is
that.
final.
We finalized that. Was that just yesterday? Monday. Yes, so we finalized it on Monday at 151. We signed off with the state for our long-term weighted average daily membership. It's like 151 point something. I can't remember. Reduction. Yeah.
Okay.
Elizabeth?
Michelle has a.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I can't hear. So I know I'm not hearing very well today.
Okay, so we're going to have, I know you said something at the last meeting and we were really late, so I don't remember why. Why are we having 2 administrators at East Montpelier?
Okay, so I will say that you will probably see in draft 3 that there are 2 administrators, principal and assistant principal at East Montpelier's location and at Berlin's location. But this call also has a reduction in the behavior position, so we've combined it up into an assistant principal for those 2 locations because of the number of staff that need to be supervised at each of those locations. We felt like it was better to have a second administrator. They would be school year assistant principals, not full year. And so the principal would still be full year. The assistant principal would be school year. We're looking at having staffs between 50 and 65 staff members. And so adequate supervision of that size staff really does require 2 administrators in those roles.
And so, well, like when I look at this, and we're going to do 2 at East Montpelier, and then even if you did 2 at Berlin, it's going to be even less. But then at U32, you're cutting it down to 3, and that's more per administrator there for them to have to evaluate.
Michelle, could you put your mic a little closer to you?
So if I think I heard that you were saying that there's more staff at the East Montpelier, Calais East Montpelier combination than there are at the Berlin combination. Is that what I understood, Michelle?
Yep. There's that, and then, but when you look at the number of administrators, right? So I understand the one in cutting the behavior position. However, I think making an administrator salary is more than making what the behavior positions apply for. But then when you look at U32, you've cut it to 3 administrators, and they're still supervising more staff than what the elementary schools are.
So at U32, we will also utilize so there's actually 4 administrators that will be working at U32. One of them is a district administrator that is special education that will be supervising the special education teachers and paraprofessionals that are associated with that. So we'll have 4 administrators able to do supervision. It's just 3 of them are building-based administrators, and one of them is the district level. We're not trying to hide them, but it's just we have a director and essentially assistant director of special education, and so but the assistant director will be based primarily at U32. I would say significantly at U32 as part of supervision and evaluation and supporting the IEP process for those students.
Wait, so Elizabeth, then Daniel, and then you, Kelly.
My question was answered. I had questions about the behavior position.
Yep. So in addition, in some of those schools, we would have not only an assistant principal at the Berlin and East Montpelier site, but there's also support from a paraprofessional at each of those sites for behavior. But I also mentioned the functional skills edition. That doesn't show right here in this, that was done yesterday, and so that wasn't reflected in this chart when it was sent to you. But the addition of support for functional skills will also be helping with some of that behavior more proactively than just, reactively for all of that. And Middlesex and Worcester, a smaller student population is lower need is what you see there between the staffing, but there is still personnel that are committed to the behavior piece of that as well.
Daniel?
Yeah, this is less a question, more a request that we see with the staffing budgets, not only what is in each budget, but also what it's changing from and what it's changing to. So in other words, the delta at each school. And I realize that adds a lot to the chart, and it's, as you said, already a complex process, but it feels really important for both us and the public to understand very clearly the staffing changes, not only what the plan is and what the budget is, but also what it has been in FY26.
I hear you. We'll do our best to provide that information.
Go ahead.
You're going to need a microphone. Yep. And Diane had her hand up online, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to go to her last.
Just related to that, though, Daniel, if we took draft 1 and figure out the salaries and compare it to this, would that answer what you're talking about? Because I'm worried about taking this year's and comparing it to next year's, and you're going to see the difference in salaries compounding it. So it makes more sense to do draft 1 versus draft 3. Sound right?
Well, I'm less interested in the dollar amounts than I am in the individuals. And the
Oh, I thought I
estimates.
heard you say dollar amounts, so, okay.
Sorry.
Individuals is fine. But draft 1 versus draft 3.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hold on 1 minute. Keely?
Stephen, I think I heard you say twice that there would be an assistant principal at Berlin as well, but I only see 1 admin. Am I looking in the wrong place?
No, you're looking at draft 2B and not draft 3. So
Yeah.
we just yesterday
will change.
made that
Okay.
decision.
Sorry,
Yep.
you probably
So
said that. And
this is the hard part is the leadership team's work cycle versus the board's packet. They weren't lined up for this one.
thanks.
I'm going to go to Diane and then to you, Patrick. Diane?
Yes, so I'm just wanting to clarify 2 things. And one, Daniel, was to clarify what your statement is. Are you meaning the breakdown of like each grade level or topics? Because I'm just trying to get an understanding as I'm comparing the charts and things. And so I was wondering if that's what you were looking for potentially. So that's just a question for
Yeah,
Daniel.
I'm, well, since we're in the Callis building, I'll use Callis as an example, like staffing budget 2B on page 21 of the packet has Callis, East Montpelier, combination facility at 63.42, and 2A has it at 22.74 at just a Callis school. I'm curious what it is now, so that people can wrap their heads around.
You're talking about the
gotcha.
current, in, that is provided in
Okay.
our staffing sheet from November 10th. Can give you a breakdown that we have 24.19 people on staff here as of November.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I think
if
you
that
want
could be
to-
at the same place as this information, so that people could compare it, I think that would be really
I hear you. That's easy to do.
instructive. Yeah, thanks.
Then
So-
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify, Daniel and Diane, so we would use the table that Stephen already has with the current, and that would compare it with draft 3.
Yeah.
Draft 3 and draft 2A, I think.
No, we are asking them to move over with the decision of the board, right? So it would have to be the current. We're not going to ask them to draft 3 different budgets.
No, I'm
Two
not-
different.
I'm sorry, I'm not asking for draft 2A to be further developed. I'm asking this chart of staffing in 2A to be combined with this chart that Stephen just referenced, so that people could understand in this version where all 5 schools remain open, how many
Okay, got
adult
it.
bodies
Got it.
are
So-
lost per school.
Okay.
That's what I want
Not for
to be able to
numbers.
see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then the other thing that I just, and I'm not sure if it can be clarified tonight, but again, I don't think the interventionists listed, you know, what was being highlighted to us from the principals last time was the cuts in the interventionists. And these 2 charts don't look as though there's major cuts in those interventionists. So I think it would be, I just need clarification or validation that these numbers are accurate. And I realize that might not be able to happen tonight, but it just doesn't seem to match what we were told last time.
I see Suzanne with kind of question mark face.
Yeah, I think one of the confusing parts of this is that so draft 1 of our budget was our level service budget, which was every position that we have now plus whatever we thought we needed for services in the future. From that there were some increases in services from our current situation to draft 1. And then from draft 1 to draft 2, either one, A or B, right? It's hard to tell. We talked about what we had wanted in draft 1 versus what we got in draft 2A, right? And that's still different than from where we are now to where we would be in draft 2A, B, or 3. And so I think we got a little confused when we did that piece. So if I may, from the board's perspective, what would be helpful is, do you want to see from what it is now to next year, or did you want to see what it would look like for a level service? Okay, so from what it is now to what it would be, as I see head shaking around that's great. That just helps me make sure that I'm clear in what I put together, because I think some of the confusion, and Diane, this may be where some of your confusion was as well, is some of our language when we talked about impact was from the draft 1 to the draft 2, and then we also have the information from now to draft 2. So what I'm hearing from the board and seeing with the head nods is that if I can just be clear about where we are right now to what we will be in the future draft 3, but also with some information about draft 2A, should we have, which are really our contingency plans, is what those are.
The contingency, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Except that, again, it was very much emphasized the negative impact of losing interventionists in under 2A as opposed to 2B at the last meeting. And if I look at these numbers, they're pretty comparable between 2A and 2B. So all I'm asking it for is help understanding if those numbers are correct or not, because if they are, I don't understand the difference of the impact. So that's it. That's all I'm just trying to understand what I was told last time.
Okay.
Okay, and I think Zach might have some to clarify. I have some thoughts, and then Patrick has been waiting patiently. This is related to this conversation,
This is directly
right?
related
Yeah.
to Diane's question. Yeah, I think a thing that would be important to clarify, and Diane, this may get to what you're bringing up, is not just the number of bodies, but also what those staff are doing. So like thinking about, like, for example, the fact that we're looking at cutting the math teacher position at Doty. If we go forward with 5 schools, that means that the students are working independently while one section is being taught in another, and we don't know how to find the time for that. If we combine the 3 school models, that position still gets cut, but now that you're in straight grade classes, or if you chose for programmatic reasons to have combined grades, you have 2 of them. You have a classroom teacher that's just devoted, who's just able to teach math and only has 1 grade level to teach. And so there's not the need for that interventionist. I know that in East Montpelier, you've got odd numbers of combined grade classes where you're bringing in, where the number of interventionists doesn't change, but you go from bringing in the interventionists to teach just straight grade math, to having them actually doing intervention all the time. And so I think that's a thing that doesn't, I think Diane's right, that doesn't come out in this.
Right.
That it's a very similar number of number of interventionists, but the number of hours of intervention being provided are actually quite different.
Thank you, Zach. Patrick, go ahead, and then I have one comment.
Thank you. I want to talk about community connections in pre-K. I'm not quite clear on what the plan configuration of the pre-K is, but the question. So the clarifying is, could you just tell us that again, and then the question will be like, is that change informed by the survey that we've done, or what's motivating the change that you're outlining? And a reason I'm sensitive to this is I'm concerned that we are pushing a cost on the families that happen to have the youngest kids in the district for this particular to have to take care of their kids for a long enough time that they actually have a job and hold hours in a job, right? And so I'm concerned about that reality. So I want to just know what's the information informed that change, and is it the families that are going to have to interact with that change?
Okay, so let me start with structure, so that we have that. So we're still looking at having 2 half-day pre-K programs at Berlin. We're looking at having 2 half-day pre-K programs for the East Montpelier Calais communities, and 1 half-day program for the Doty Rumney communities. That is the level of need that we think that we have seen for our programs. So that's the pre-K program. It would be 5 days a week, a morning or afternoon, depending on which program, and then morning or afternoon at the Middlesex Worcester Communities Group. Then we also would have a community connections program that, as we do now, that's attached to those programs so that there can be full day care, right? So pre-K for part of the day, CC for the other part of the day. We are doing that because our first goal was to have extended pre-K, having more time in pre-K, but realizing budgetarily that was not going to be possible for us to run that program, because it actually changed the formula for what families could receive in subsidies for the CC program as well. And so being able to do a half-day program pre-K, half-day program CC, it allows our families who are eligible for subsidies to have a higher level of subsidy to help them with that. with paying for any services for that. We think that this program provides a greater opportunity for our working families so that they do not have to figure out one day a week. Now, we had CC for that one day a week for some families, but for a nominal cost, we were able to expand our pre-K programming so there's more educational programming. This helps in a variety of other ways as well. If we have a snow day, if we have a professional day, and we lose part of our pre-K time during a week, that can put us off the number of hours that we have to offer. But by offering it one more day a week, that really kind of gives us some leeway, and it helps make sure that we meet our state obligations as well. And so it looked like a win-win for us in terms of what our families were requesting, what we could offer, and still allow our families access to the subsidies that they may need to help for childcare. This is not talking about before and after school care, which are also areas that we would be looking at expanding, but that would be under the Community Connections umbrella, and they have, and that funding is not through this budget. That is a different funding model. They receive funds directly from families for that time. And we're also looking at doing after-school programming, specifically using our community schools work, and that is going to hopefully be able to be expanded. We're working on grants to expand that opportunity as well, so that our students would have access both at the elementary and at the middle and high level for after-school programming that is funded through our community schools work. That was a lot, but I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Great.
I have one follow-up question on that,
go
if that's
ahead,
okay. So right now, the state covers 4 half-days of pre-K. If we make that 5, who covers the 5th half-day?
They cover.
That 5th half-day is in our budget. That's working from our funds to be able to cover the last bit. Currently, so it's an odd formula, but we cover 0.84 FTEs of our pre-K program is what we currently budget for a full-day teacher. We would be upping that to 1, so it's an increase of 0.16. Did I say that right? 0.16. So that's what the district would say we're going to cover that additional amount.
Okay, so then actually for families, like I pay for Community Connections for 4 half-days and then a full day.
Yep.
For families, that would then become for 5 half-days.
Correct.
So it actually should lower costs nominally for
Nominally,
families.
yeah.
I mean, it's already sliding in scale, and it's
Right.
pretty great. But just, I want to be clear on, it's not going up, it's actually going down.
Yeah.
Elizabeth?
Apologies if you've answered this already. What would the contingency plan be if one town chose to stay open and another town chose to stay closed in regards to budgeting? Would it be closest to 2A or?
Yeah, so it would be closest to 2A. And in what so if it would just be a 4 elementary school model, so you would just take 2B would pretty much be whatever combination of schools. So if it were Calais East Montpelier or Middlesex Worcester, the 2B would be pretty much their staffing. And the 2A would be the staffing of the independent schools. And I would also say that starts to create imbalances in the programming that we can offer between those schools, and it may require us to go back and look at the other schools as well, the combined school as well, may not have the full programming that we're proposing. So, I mean, it's, because we do want to have some balance to what we're offering within our elementary schools.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, I was wanting to ask the board so that they especially for leadership, to have clarity so that they're not spinning. And Daniel, I'm not just going to try to go back to what we were saying. When we were originally talking about the budget, we set parameters. And in parameter 5, we are asking them to set a contingency plan. And with that contingency plan, just because now we have long-term weighted pupils numbers that we did not have when we created those other budgets. So I'm just asking for I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but I'm just curious if what it makes more sense is for us to let them draft the budget, the draft budget 3A, and the idea was that they will then come with a contingency plan of what will need to be cut, what would need to happen, cut is not the right word, what would need to happen if one or two of the votes did not pass, because that would be more truthful to our communities than just trying to reference to an artificial 2A and 2B that might not be there. And then we still have this table that is what we are right now. What I'm trying to do is be more efficient in the way that they're able to provide information to us, and also at the same time it'll be more transparent, because it creates a lot of people are confused between the 2A, 2B, and what it means. What would be more clear is that we have draft 3, which is going to be the model that we approved, and then we have the contingency plan, and that would outline what are the reductions necessary in order for us to operate if one or two schools were closed. Going back and forth is really confusing. We create more work for them. I'm just proposing that to the board, hearing all of you talk, that going back and forth to, I don't know, Stephen or Suzanne, you might have. I'm just listening to what you guys were saying, and that's what comes to mind to me. I don't know, Ursula, were you raising your hand? Keely.
Yeah, can you just explain what the contingency plan would look like? I'm just having a trouble visualizing what that.
I'm actually, can I just say, I'm having a little trouble thinking about it right now off the cuff, but what I do think I hear is that being very clear about where we are going from now to what draft 3 would be, and then from there having some kind of chart that shows what would be our contingency should draft 3 of 3 elementary schools not be that. And so I'm trying to visualize. It's complicated. In fact, when we looked over like our staffing chart, we were like, how do we make this better understood so that people know where positions are and what they are? And we're trying to condense that down because it is confusing. I mean, I want to fully admit, we're trying to figure out what's the best way to convey this information so that people can see from now to the next draft and what contingencies that we have on it. And I think if we can lay that out in that way, that will be our best way to help people understand what the budget means, and then there are 2 pieces to our contingency plans, and I hate to even bring up the second one, but one is the votes that are on February 10th. The other is the vote for the budget. Yeah. And so I don't want to forecast that the budget would fail, but I do believe that we need to be aware that this is going to be a tough budget season across the state, and we don't know how people will vote.
Okay.
You can go. You sure? Yeah, I think what's important is that we're able to genuinely talk about the FTE and the services that would be associated with a 2A type budget. I think the numbers are not as important to me because we've been assured that they would be about the same. But I think it's, especially ahead of these votes, really important to see how those services look different and what the differences in staffing looks like, because that's going to be the most important part of, Yeah, and I think that goes to what Zach was saying about, while there may be an interventionist, are they doing intervention work or are they teaching to grade level math or something along those lines? That's the services piece that I hear in that question. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So how much money is being freed up by the lowered loss of student?
I wish I could say that money was being freed up, but
not lost. So how much money is not lost?
So about $250,000 difference between the 166 student decline versus the 151 student decline. And my caveat on that is that our tuition for the Career Center does not only include CVCC, but also we are now paying tuition to RTCC, which is Randolph Tech, because as you heard Jody mention, that the overflow of students who did not get into CVCC went to Randolph, and that was a number of students for us. I don't remember the exact number. 28 students. And so we begin paying on our 6-semester average next year on those students for Randolph Tech as well. So we had an increase in our tuition there. So it was not, it wasn't a complete wash, but it was pretty close for us.
Do we already have a budget mapped out for a 5-school model?
Do we have a budget for a 5 elementary school model? Not a complete one at this point in time. We had what we estimated in 2A,
Right.
but we're going to provide draft number 3 will be a 3 elementary model with contingencies should there be no votes or a budget that does not pass.
Okay, is the contingency going to be different than what the 5-school model was? At least one of the contingencies? I guess one is 4 and one is 5.
I will say that it will probably be fairly similar, but I think that we've also, in our work since we put that budget together, we've had other decisions that we've been making about how staffing should look or could look and what programming we could and couldn't offer.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Michaela.
Sorry, I feel like I should know this, but are the students who do early college counted in our LTWADM?
Some. So this is one of those that, yes, some are and some are not. So we're held harmless after 5% of our students. It's kind of a sliding formula for that. So we don't lose all of our LTWADM for the kids who do early college, but we do lose some.
Do you have a rough estimate as to what that?
I don't have it right now.
I'm just.
So Suzanne will
That'd be
see
great.
what she can do on that.
Okay.
Can I just, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have one more suggestion, and this would probably come in the budget 3, but the table, as we move from the 5-school FTE to the 3-school FTE, it's also helpful to have close by the number of LTWADM in that school or the number of actual students in that school, because part of it is looking at the percentages of staff to, like the staff to student ratios, I think is a part of the story.
So
Or maybe it's not once I get the numbers, but I think it
well,
might
so,
be.
but you're also talking about weighted students versus actual students. And so
Yeah.
staff to student ratios are on actual students, not the weighted students.
Right,
So,
which then
What-
isn't
what
what
will-
we should really be looking at anyway.
yeah, so I would just say that we'll provide the staffing numbers.
Yeah.
We'll provide the enrollment numbers. We'll provide you with the
Okay.
The LTWADMs have not changed drastically overall between the schools and what we reported before.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now we're going to move into, we're appointing our temporary clerk. Yeah, so 5.1, and she graciously came today also to answer some questions. We've been trying to fill out the position of a district clerk, as you all know, talking to everybody, and we haven't been able to fill it. So I talked to Melissa, and Stephen talked to Melissa too, and she's willing to do it in the interim so that we can go ahead with the very important election that we have right now and for budget. So I'm wondering if we could have a motion to nominate Melissa Tuller for district clerk so we can appropriately function.
I'll motion to have Elizabeth be, or have Melissa be our temporary
With great.
district clerk.
Thanks. And so by Michelle, second by Keely. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I see all ayes, so the ayes have it. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
And then we're gonna move into, I asked Melissa to maybe join us today because there were some questions that we wanted to make sure that we could answer. So the budget warning language is on page 22. And that's for, and I also have it here so that you guys can all sign it. There's a couple of things Oh, actually, we don't have that one. It's
No, no,
just
so
here.
this
This
is
is the separate one.
For
but-
clarification, you have the budget, this is the budget warning language. You will approve it at the next meeting, but we wanted you to see it at this meeting. But Floor also has.
I also have, yeah. So, but one
Yeah.
thing, so first, the budget on the page 22, we want to make a small adjustment and increase the clerk pay to 2,000. If you guys are okay with that, we've been, we increased it 2 years ago, but it is a lot of work, and yeah. Okay. Yes, yes, but I have a motion to increase,
move
so
that
it's on
we
Article 4, so make a motion for Article 4, please.
Oh, boy.
Do you have it there?
Yeah, I move that we increase the pay for the WCUUSD clerk from $1,000 to $2,000 in Article 4.
Thank you, Keely, second by Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor, please
No, I
signify
have
by
a-
saying
I have
aye.
a- I have
Oh, Diane,
question.
go ahead.
So I think I'm in support of it, but it would be helpful to have a ballpark sense of what the amount of time is that is needed in that position. I think to make a fiscally responsible decision, it would be helpful to know that as well.
So I think that Melissa had provided us that, but I don't know if you wanted to sort of share about, would that be fair right now, Melissa? We had looked at this 2 years ago, Diane, and we decided back then to just increase $500 because it was in between year. But what I can tell you is that just this, could you describe how much time you have spent just in this past couple of weeks?
Nope.
No, it's just.
Just talk.
Okay. Oh, I'm good,
thank
thank you. Without, I mean, I would say ballpark, at least 30 hours extra time without doing a time study.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. I also, the other thing I would suggest that we do is get a better sense of it, because if it is 30 hours and the pay is 2,000, then are we even doing a stipend that matches minimum wage? And I realize it doesn't necessarily get into it, but it also is important. So I would ask that we try to capture that so that we make sure that we are fairly compensating a person.
Thank you, Diane. We can modify it at our next meeting if we need to modify it. Would you be okay with that? We will go ahead with the 2,000 for now and then modify it at our next meeting is when we will be updating the entire ballot. Is that okay? Thumbs up? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, so now I do have, but I just have one copy, which you are all going to sign, and I'm going to circulate of the warning for the vote, both in Doty for the Worcester community and for the Calais community, that we all approved, but we didn't, because we just approved at our last meeting, so tonight we all get to sign it. There were a couple of questions asked by the public, Melissa, on when the ballots would be available, and we talked about January and the 20 days. Do you mind?
So the ballot should be available at the town clerk's by Friday, this Friday, the 8th. And if you need to request one to be mailed, you can do that by calling anytime.
Okay, thank you. All right. So with that, I'm going to circulate this so that board members don't forget to sign it. Start it in that corner, and we'll move it through. Yeah. Thank you, Melissa. Now, we're going to move into the annual report format. We have had a format for the past few years on your annual report, if you guys all remember. Are there any concerns with continuing to have the same format that we have had for the past few years? We just wanted to put it in the agenda with Stephen in case there was, some years we have had some concerns, and we've been paring it down as much as we can so that And we added pictures of kids so that it was more friendly. Okay, so I don't see any. Oh, Diane, just not looking at the screen.
So what I wonder is, as part of the communication committee's work too, if just getting feedback on if it's working for the communities as well. I think we have been responsive to that, and just building in that cycle of being able to get a sense of the feedback from our communities as to if it's giving them the information they need as well would be helpful.
Great idea. Yeah, and we can add that maybe after this report goes out. Maybe we can put a survey out. What we have learned from the past, in case people have forgotten, is that we don't mail it to every house. We have a QR code, and there's reports available at each town clerks and at each school. And that was the feedback from community, and that's how we moved into that. And it also saves us, it saves the district a little money, and it allows us also to, because we are going to be sending mail-in ballots as a district this year for everybody, which we're super excited that they pass. Okay. Yes.
We had changed the agenda and moved 5.1 to 5.2, the discussion of school board vacancies, but we have not done that yet.
Oh, totally skipped it, sorry.
That's why
Which is
I'm
what
here.
the other part of myself is here. We have several board vacancies coming up. Unfortunately, McKellen is not going to run again. Chris, you have to put in your petition, right? Diane, you have to put in your petition. And then we have a couple, Daniel is going to put out his petition, and we have one person, Dave, who has started his petition for East Montpelier. And, people are, it's okay to have a contested election. We don't know of any others. We're still looking for somebody for Worcester, unless you have been able to make contact yet. No. Any volunteers? No. I'm looking at you if there's any, no. So. She's working on it. So we wanted to just be transparent. This is the time of the year there's a lot of webinars going on through VSBA to learn more about what it is to be a board member. If you have any questions, reach out to any of us. But we would like to, go ahead.
And just a reminder that we still have an open Berlin seat.
Berlin seat.
So we'd be happy to have another Berlin member.
Go ahead.
I'm just drawing attention to the fact that the Calais town clerk has her hand up online.
Oh. Tegan?
Good evening. I just wanted to point out that both Worcester and Calais town offices are closed on Fridays. So if people wanted to contact us on Thursday, that would work. But if they try calling Friday, we will most likely not answer that day.
Thanks for clarifying that, Tegan. Thank you.
I will say I was planning to get ballots out first thing Monday morning that have already been requested.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. So now, did I miss anything else? No, good, okay. Now we're going to move into the superintendent evaluation. He shares some information with us.
And I have a hard copy here, and there'll be some extras down at the end for this. So this is just more of a quick reflection on some of the work that's been done. This isn't comprehensive to everything that's been done. And as I understand, in March, we'll look through the rubric that goes along with my goals. But just wanted to share a few things around the strategic goals of our strategic plan and some of the work that's been done that were part of the broader goals. And I would just highlight with well-being and inclusivity, let me also just big caveat is that I get to oversee a lot of this, but the people doing the work, there are people within in our learning community and our administrative team and all that do a lot of the actual work that makes these things happen. And so our well-being and inclusivity, certainly there was work around our SEL standards, instructions and assessment. So we have a district-wide screener now that also includes some resources for our teachers in order to address those needs and concerns. The other is develop a district-wide professional learning plan to to support equity, diversity, and inclusion. I'd say this was a lot of work that we did as a leadership team at the end of the latter part of last year that we're being able to implement now, where we have embedded PD for our teachers with a real focus on our universal design for learning, reading and writing instruction, as well as, and it doesn't say it right here, but it's another piece, our EQS work that we've been doing. We've done a couple of sessions of that, and we'll have a third session of it on January 20th. A lot of that work was done by our Humanity and Justice Scholar in Residence, and I want to shout out to Natasha for doing a great deal of work on this as well. So we've been able to implement that professional learning plan, and we'll continue to work on that based upon the needs of our staff. This is part of a strong MLSS system, is having responsive professional development. Also point out there that our curriculum council does a lot of work on this as well in preparing modules for professional learning, helping deliver some of this as well. So I think this is, I would consider this a big highlight as the work we've been doing as a team over the last year to really align our work better. And so this means that teachers in each of our schools are getting substantially similar training in these areas so that when they come together as teams, they have some of the same background knowledge. And so this has been very helpful. Our community school work, I mean, let's just highlight the fact that our community school coordinator has done a great job of getting this information out and being able to develop some of our engagement in the community around both activities and starting some partnerships for us to move towards having some healthcare options within our schools and being able to do that kind of work as well. And working on some grants to be able to get us some additional after-school activities. I would highlight that in our student learning and engagement part of this, that the work kind of highlight really the professional development, that second bullet. We have for years had our teachers requesting more training around universal design for learning, which is an approach that we have to make sure that all students can access materials and be able to learn within their classrooms, no matter what they bring to that classroom. And so that training has really started, and we've gone through several pieces of it. There's still much more to go on this, but it was something that our teachers have been requesting through our surveys for quite some time, and our work has really been moving forward with this quite a bit. And then I would also highlight U32 is really working on how do we refine our proficiency-based system so that it is clearer and more easily accessible for our families and our kids, and that our progression is understandable for all. The work is kind of a combination of work here between both our department facilitators, our administrative team, and our an equity team that's there. Includes some of the student work as well within some of this. And so quite a bit going on there, a lot of work to do. I think we referred to this years ago as the work that needed to be version 2 of our proficiency work, so that we just went back and reevaluated the work that we were doing, and I know that they've been doing a lot of that, that work as well. And then I would say under the final category of the responsible leadership and transparency, our strategic goal number 3, one of the goals in our strategic plan was the board configuration work. You may be familiar with that. It's been from the first day that I started as superintendent. I picked up the work that had been done by the previous superintendent, and we've been carrying that work through to the questions that we're even dealing with today and will continue to deal with. And the area that I think I would like to highlight from my own perspective is the developing the sustainable budget, is that we really have tried to move to a process by which we allocate funds based on student needs. And that helps us then make sure that regardless of where a student is in our district, we're trying to meet their needs in that site. And when you look at 2 schools, and you see that there's a difference in the number of staff, or there's a difference in the amount of allocation of funds, it is usually because of the difference in the student needs that are in that building. And I think that our budget process has really tried to take that into account. which will help us be more accountable to how we're spending our money to meet those student needs. So the next step in this process is to say, how we've allocated the money this way, how are student outcomes related to that spending now? And that's kind of the next big step. And I think I would certainly highlight the work that we've done there. And I think that while it's a highlight, we've worked hard to try to communicate better and better, and this is an area that will perennial need growth for us to make sure that we're communicating in ways that are accessible for our families, the board, and in our communities as a whole, being able to get that information out. And so I would say that we've worked on it. I enjoy going out for, I know I call them coffees, but I've never actually provided a cup of coffee to anybody, and I can admit that. It's my own bias. I don't like coffee. I'm sorry to those who love it. But I will say that and I can look out in the folks that are attending here. I've seen several of them at the coffee conversations. It's not a large group of people that attend, but it is nice to hear the voices of families and community members that do come to those. And so those have been a source of pleasure for me, is to be out and doing those things. So that's just a high level. And there are certainly, like, we'll talk about my growth areas when we talk about the rubric and the specific pieces of my leadership. That comes in March after we look at the results from surveys and all of that as well. And so please know that I don't think that I have won the award for any kind of superintendency with this, but I do think that we've done a lot of work in a very short amount of time as a community. And I really think, this is a testament to the people that we have in our district, not just me.
Are there any questions for Stephen? The reason this is important is because on January 9th, you're all going to receive your survey. We all approve our superintendent evaluation cycle, and we reviewed it at our last meeting again. So you're going to be receiving the survey on everybody at January 9th, and the survey will be closing on January 23rd. And then if we go with that schedule that you guys all have, that means that on February 4th, we would be having an executive session as a board with BSBA to go over the results, and then we'll draft the letter to Stephen. Is that clear for everybody? So if you have any questions, and we talked a lot about this last year, that we wanted to have a reflection before we were, given the survey. So this is your time. Otherwise, I'm going to move us into our next agenda item.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands up. Thank you, Stephen. No? Okay, we're good. So the communications and engagement planning, we're going to do, when we're ready for public comment at the end of the meeting, you will be able to stop.
Where it is answered, right in here in your paperwork. When you amend something, I learned in 5th and 6th grade from Mrs. Podia at Mercallis School, you change the wording of the amendment. The original wording gets changed. So I don't understand when you say it's amended, it's not being amended.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead,
Try.
Ursa. And
If you check on our minutes from the meeting where that amendment was made, you're looking at the minutes. So on page 32, when we're talking about the motion, nope, page 31. Yep. So the configuration model, Amelia Contrera moved to adopt the configuration model. And then there's all the discussion we had, and then we got to Chris McVeigh offered an amendment. If any town votes not to close this school, this board will honor that vote not to work to circumvent the town's vote. So the amendment is very clearly called out right there, plus the results of said vote.
yeah.
It was
No.
never part of the language vote.
for the
It was
warning.
never put with the part of the vote.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for explaining it again, Ursula. Thank you. Okay. Let's move into the communications and engagement plan. And this is mostly to talk about what we're going to do from now until February 10th for our communications. You all received an email just for planning purposes and breaking up the board into groups of 3, so that what the board, looking at all the feedback that both the configuration committee shared and you guys shared at the last meeting, we wanted to be more nimble in how we be able to address our communities. So there's 2, and this is for us to decide today. Stephen and I were looking at 2 possible dates to have the informational meeting. We checked in with our clerk. Those 2, we were thinking just 1 informational meeting, but to be fair to both towns, we would have 2 informational meetings within those 10 days. So the first informational, I'm just going to have to go back to my notes. The first informational meeting that the board as a whole will be responsible with all of you would be on February 4th at Doty. We would do it right before our meeting, which means that there won't be policy committee meeting that day, and we would do an informational meeting, which is required by statute. We're going to add another informational meeting within those 10 days on Saturday, February 7th. A lot of the town meetings sometimes have a meeting on Saturday that allows more people to be able to come in the morning. So if you guys are okay with that, on February 7th, we would do one at Calais from 9 to 10:30 is what we were thinking, to allow other people to come. And then in between that, the idea was that the small groups can, go at it, partner with the configuration committee members. You won't have a quorum of board members, so that you can, and we can talk about this, but the idea was that then you would have agency in getting together at homes. I'm going to share my screen. We did a lot of work in mapping our community, and I can send that link to you guys of the work that we did before of what are the gathering places too, but you would have the flexibility we would be fulfilling as a board 2 big meetings, but then we would be basically more boots on the ground to be able to address our communities, and you all have different groups of friends, sports, I don't know. So I'm just putting that on the table as the pleasure of the board. So could we just agree on the first 2? I would be looking for a motion, if you guys are okay with February 4th from 5 to 6:30, and February 7th from 9 to 10:30.
Need a motion?
Yeah. Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Discussion. Second. So Chris and Michaelan, discussion. This is just for information within the 10-day window.
These are the 2 informational meetings the full board would attend.
The full board of the majority of the board. It doesn't have to be the full board like all informational meetings. Not the entire board has to be there. It would be great to have the entire board there, but it doesn't mean that the entire board has to be there. But they are the meetings of the board, so they would be warned like a regular board meeting so that all of the board can attend. Stephen?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So the February 4th meeting would be at the Doty School for Worcester Community. The February 7th meeting would be here in the Calais School, so that we would have an informational meeting at both, within both towns. Just so we didn't say locations, but I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I have some concerns about the Saturday timeframe, just because a lot of activities happen on Saturday for families, and sports happen on Saturday for families around that timeframe.
Okay,
So I feel like it needs to be later in the day, but I can't tell you what the perfect time would be. If anybody wants to chime in on that, but I think 9 to 10:30 is really rough for families, and I think people need to be present.
Okay. So we can talk about that. And then the other thing, even if we have 2 locations, hopefully people can feel free to go to either time that works for them. The informational meeting will be covering all of it. But so what would be, I'm looking at the Calais precedent here, the 2 board members. So if it's not that time, and not all board members need to be here, usually before town meeting, I don't know if you guys remember, that's when we used to have a meeting, it was earlier sometimes, but it was 9 to 10:30 to allow, especially our people that don't like to drive late at night. So our seniors really favor that timing. But I'm open to any, it's our decision, so any
Yeah, I'm not thinking evening. I was thinking more midday, 1.
1 to
1
3
o'clock.
or 1 to 2.
Right,
What-
yes, right.
What did you say, Daniel?
I vote for 2.
2 to 3:30?
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock to 2:01. Yeah, 2 to 4, 2 to 4,
2 to 3:30, yeah.
Yeah, 3:30.
3:30.
Because people got to go, we have to go to the dump Saturday morning.
Wait.
so-
Can we have a friendly amendment since we have a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Friendly amendment accepted?
Accepted?
Yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion? So 2 to 3:30 is what we're saying?
Did you say
You've
what?
got
2 to
that-
what?
3:30.
3:30. So 14 hours to 15:30? Is that okay?
15:30.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Lisa, that is actually not, it's like the rest of the world. That's like what makes sense for me. But Lisa, do you got it? Do you have it? All right. Okay. All those in favor?
Zach had a...
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'll do it after the vote, sorry.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we have that part covered. And now
Laura, can I just make
discussion on the rest. Go ahead, Zach.
Just, I think to Elizabeth's point about sort of it's going to be hard for people. I mean, anytime there are going to be some people that are going to have a tough time making. So I think it's really incumbent on us to use the small groups to create a lot more other times. And I actually, going back to the public comments at the beginning of the meeting, I really liked Noah's idea about not just going to the community affected, but also saying, doing things at Rumney and in East Montpelier to say, here, come and see what we're really talking about here. And I hope that that's something that we could do, potentially use those small groups to do. I think trying to coordinate the whole board for that is going to get real hard, real fast. But I would really like us to sort of take that on in the smaller groups to try to make that happen.
Agree. Okay, so then
Natasha.
Can you just talk a little bit more about aside from the 2 big groups, and just so you know, I can't make it on that Saturday one. I'm going out of town with the Model UN group, but like what are you envisioning for the small groups and how we're going to be working with the communities between now and February 10th?
So what I was envisioning, a small group has been working on, group is Stephen and Ben, and we have given him some feedback. We're working on like a flyer, basically, something that condenses all the information so that the small groups hopefully will be done by tomorrow. I don't mean to speak. Done, Stephen? It's just like, you're not to my side, so I can help
I know.
you.
We've got some materials that we're preparing that we want to do a mailer for, but we'll also give some information for you as board members. So when you're in these meetings, this is some information that you can share. I also hear you in some of the budget stuff that'll be some important pieces of information as well for you as a board member, but really just to have the conversations is what we were hoping that would happen at these meetings. And I'm happy to attend with any of the groups, I just need to know when and where.
So the idea, and I'm just going to add to what Stephen was saying, we've been hearing from community members that sometimes what they would like is more of a smaller group. So whether it is at a home, whether it is at I'm going to pull out the list here, so I'm not bluffing. I can share. Oh, where is it? So the places that we have, when we did our community mapping, and I'm going to share my screen so people can see this. This is work that the board did before. So what I was envisioning, share. Sorry. It's taking a minute. Okay, can you guys see this? Do you guys remember this work? This is back in 2022. And then, so for example, in Calais, what was said is that, Maple Corner Community Center, Maple Corner, Adamant Co-op, Calais town hall, the transfer station, farm stands, like sort of like, the idea would be like we, even within the audience today, both online and here, have different community people. You have your sports groups, you have your friends groups. So trying to give agency to those 3 people, or if they want to partner with 3 others from, like Anna is here, Deborah Bloom has also volunteered to be part of this group. So trying to reach as many people as possible within the timeframe between now and January 10th. So as a board, doing the work and owning this to make sure that our public is informed. And we would have some signs also that remind people about just when the vote is. Michaela. And you can design this. What we heard is that you guys wanted to have agency. So it is, you brainstorm, it's not directed. Go ahead, Michaela.
I'd just like some clarity on the kind of intention of these meetings, and also kind of how we should be presenting things, because I feel like we've gotten into trouble in the past by saying we're collecting information when really we're kind of presenting our already plan. And at this point now we have a plan. And in my view, something else I've heard from the community is like, no one's selling me a plan. Like, no one's telling me why we should vote for this. But I've also heard from the powers that be that like, well, we can't tell people like that they should vote for something. Specifically the budget, I suppose. But so obviously our goal is to provide information, but is it also our goal to explain why, in our view, this is the best path forward?
Yes, the board as a whole has voted for this path forward. So we all now stand behind, regardless of how this is a board decision. So the information that we would be providing is informational material so that people can make an informed decision of what they're going to get from voting this way, right? That is basically what we're doing. I'm not trying to tell you that you have to, go. What I'm trying to say is like, we need to make sure that our public is informed with the information that we all have agreed that we want to move forward in order to best serve our students and provide the sustainability, the equity, and all of that we've been talking about. So that would be
and
our
we have
job.
permission to sell our plan rather than
So
take a
it's more about
completely neutral
informing
backseat.
our plan and what our,
Okay.
Ursula.
I think that it might be a really fine distinction, but there's a difference between telling people why the board supports this going forward, why we think this is in the best interest of our students in this district, and going, you should vote for this, right? So we can tell you why we voted this way, why the board is moving forward with this, and why we feel it is in the best interest of the students. That's what we can do. And then they have to take the information that we're giving them and make their best informed decision.
Elizabeth?
As somebody who did not vote for it, but does support the board and the unity of the board, I have some significant needs about being able to say why it is the best decision for the district. And I think some of the things that were said tonight, specifically Daniel's comment about understanding the difference in staffing and what that will look like, is really, really important to me. One of the reasons I say that is because there's going to be one counselor to 200 and something children, which is different for children who are in a smaller program. So I just think for me, it would be really important to get some of those bullet points down and make sure that the questions that we can have tangible information to provide to our community, because they have asked for tangible information. And I think there's still some work to be done with that. And I also think these meetings need to be consistent across the board. So whatever it is we're discussing and sharing and talking about, it needs to be consistent. And so I really do feel like we need to have some bullet points, talking points to be able to say, this is why we feel this way.
Okay. So hopefully the informational brochure that we'll have will answer for those. I don't think that we can wait until January 21st when we would have all of our numbers and just have a table of comparison. I can't expect Suzanne and the leadership team and Steven to produce all of that for tomorrow, right? But we do have to start scheduling those meetings meaningfully, whether it's in small groups or bigger groups. And I get your point, Zach, and we will collaborate in some, trying to keep it so there's not a quorum of the board so that they can be more, it's still informational. We're not there to receive input. We're always there to receive input and to listen to them. But in this case, we want to be clear that it's informational so that they are informed for this vote that is coming up. And I was just briefly talking with Kelly today, and I think the communications committee can come together after this meeting and try to work on some extra stuff when we have. But I think that, I truly think the informational brochure that we're trying to put together will have at least the foundation for you to be able to have all those conversations. You might not have all of the staffing.
Right, and I don't think we need to have all of that. I just think it's really, really important if we're making a statement that this is in the best interest of our children in our district, that we have bullet points that really can illustrate that. My other request would be that with the small groups, that there is a consistent amount of numbers of how many small groups are held per community, just because I could see one community meeting 5 times and another community meeting only 1 time. And so just really thinking about the equity of that would be really important to me as well.
And my hope was that
Diane.
Diane, that each group would have at least 2 meetings, because that would mean 10 meetings happening. Diane, and then Daniel.
Elizabeth said a lot of what I was thinking as well in terms of having that information. My wondering as well is how we should gather questions that we may not be able to answer. So at our last presentation, there were a number of questions that we were showed. And so I want to be able to be responsive to our community to answer those questions with how it does benefit our children and our communities. So and I realize we can't answer all questions, but what is the mechanism for us to put into place so that we are authentically hearing what people are saying?
Daniel?
2 suggestions. One, to riff on what we heard from Noah and that Zach brought up again. I also really like that idea. I think those should be framed not as meetings, but as sort of open houses in the receiving facilities. And I do think that's important to do before the vote. I think also there's a role for maybe a joint meeting of the communications committee and the configuration committee, both before these small meetings and maybe afterwards as well, to do some work to establish what feels most pressing to get out there in terms of a message, but also in terms of the vital information of the configuration. And I think, I don't want to speak for all the members of the configuration committee, but I think, imperfect as it was, I had the feeling that the tone and the productive conversations we had in that committee were to some degree lost when the conversation and the deliberation of the board came up. And I think there's an opportunity for the configuration committee to add its voice back into this process and articulate why that group felt so strongly that this model was a good one.
Patrick?
Yeah, I want to build on that, Daniel. I agree with that, Daniel. And I think also having the configuration committee involved in these smaller meetings might help answer some of the process questions that we've heard from folks. I don't know what was deliberated in those meetings because I wasn't present at them, but perhaps if there was a member of the configuration committee there, they can talk about that, because I think there's a lot of curiosity, and having some clarity on some of that will be helpful for people to feel better about the vote.
I think that Go ahead.
Just a quick comment, because I imagine some of this will be posted to Front Porch Forum, but also if there's a place on the website maybe where we could keep a list of all the open houses.
Yeah, so the idea would be that you guys start to think about where you want to gather and what are the meetings that you're, so that we can post them on our website too, and you guys are free to post them on Front Porch Forum. Daniel and Patrick, I like your idea. I also have this sense of urgency for us to move, and there's no reason for us not to partner with the configuration committee, which is going to transition into a transition committee once we have the results of this vote. I think we can try to have maybe an online meeting of the configuration committee and the communications committee as quickly as possible. What I don't want to do is pause this work, because I think what is important for us to understand is that the board needs to, in partnership with the configuration committee, but the board made this decision and the board needs to own this decision with the community, and we need to be able to inform our community. And that doesn't mean that, because the configuration committee is part of our community, and you can partner with them regardless. And we'll try to put, Stephen, you can coordinate open houses. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, we were actually hoping to hear when these meetings would be held so that we could do the 2 open houses for sure. Julia also has her hand up.
Julia?
Thanks, Stephen. So while I recognize that this was a decision that was made by the board, the vote was 8-5. So there are 5 of us who were actually opposed to the model that was presented by the configuration committee. And I'm concerned about putting those 5 people in a position of advocating for something that they clearly don't really support. So that should be part of our conversation.
So Julia, with all your respect, you're part of the board. And when the board, any of us, the board sometimes makes a decision that you might have voted in a different decision. We still all stand behind whatever that budget is, whatever that decision is. So regardless of how you particularly voted, your duty to the board is to help with moving the work of the board forward. And I'm not making that up. That is that's what we all been learning. I'm seeing heads nodding here. That is part of that is one of the hard things about being a board member, but that's also one of the beauties about being a board, that is not us as individuals, it's us as a group that are able to move the work forward on behalf of our communities. And you're in my group, so I'll be asking you to help me. Okay. Go ahead, Michaela.
Sorry, this will be really quick. I just want to put out there, because I know some community members spoke in the beginning about this, that that this is a good chance for there to be community-led events. And I was so touched to receive an email from the Rumney PTNO inviting all the Doty families to a movie night next week. So maybe there could be a few more events like that in the coming weeks that would really bring the communities together.
Yeah, and I know the PTNO and East Montpelier also has invited the college community. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but they've been posting. So hopefully this will grow our sense of community. Of course, you can reach out to us. I will work on trying to get maybe an online meeting of the configuration committee and the community, at least some members, because some of the members are already crossed in between.
Yeah, one suggestion might be to have it during the workday so that we could have leadership there and they can tell us what's feasible, what's not feasible to pull together in terms of information, and they don't have to take more time outside of their workday to meet with us.
I would love to know what that defined workday was.
I know.
So that I knew what to work within, but I appreciate that, Daniel. I appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah, I would love to know too. Okay. All right. So now we are going to move into. Hold on.
Wait.
Hey, Floor.
Oh, sorry.
I have a really minutia maybe question. Are the small groups sending their meeting locations, places, times to Melissa, I assume?
Please
so that-
copy Stephen and myself, so
Yes.
we're not like really.
Well, I'm just like on the off chance that like two different groups are like, hey, we're going here. Somebody can be like, hey, heads up.
Yeah. Yeah, and this
Somebody
is
already
for,
picked that one.
yeah, and this is for agenda purposes. Just remember that you can communicate, for agenda purposes, we can communicate via email. That's one of the few times that we can communicate. It's just, we're not discussing what we're doing, we're just communicating for agenda.
Time
So,
and location.
time, location, please, feel free to blind copy the board so that we know that something is happening. But if you could just at least copy Melissa and Stephen and myself, then we can, not to micromanage it, just to be informed and make sure that we are able to give the resources to everybody.
Yeah.
Or is there a way that we can just like create some sort of like Excel sheet or something so each small group can just put in their
Oh, yeah,
here's the
like we
date
have
and
done
time
before.
and the location, and and people
Great.
can just kind of go to that sheet and
Great idea. We'll do it like we have done and then we'll put the talking points there like we've done before.
Sure.
Does that make sense? The
Yeah,
Google
I
Doc
just-
that has, great idea.
I just think if we can also minimize the amount of emails
Yes.
an
Yes,
individual is getting.
that's a great idea.
and have
For
one
planning
centralized-
purposes, we can have a Google Doc, it would just be dates and, yeah, great.
Okay.
Facilitation, all right. Anything else on that before I move us into policy? Miraculously, we're gonna end up maybe early today, or no?
So we have one policy for second reading and adoption. It is D23. It is the selection of an access to instructional materials. It is largely matched with the library materials policy as well. Entertain any questions that the board may have. Otherwise, I'd put
Do you want to move it, Chris, and then we'll have
put it up for a
discussion?
vote. You're right. Move that the board adopt D23 as, I think, slightly modified, but not significant.
This is a new policy for us. We redlined the changes from the VSBA's recommended policy is what you see the red line for, to bring it more in line with our library materials policy.
Thank you.
So moved by Chris and second by okay. So I confused you there. Lisa, who do you have? Okay, Patrick. All right, discussion.
Hearing none? All in favor?
Sorry, I do have.
Oh, sorry.
It's just like.
I thought you were Ursula for a
It's a
minute.
stupid question, but this is a new policy? I thought we voted on this like 2 years ago or a year ago.
This is so the library materials policy we updated and voted on, and that one's passed.
Okay.
This came up, we've had a first reading, this is our second reading, so you have seen this.
Okay.
But it got tabled at the last meeting. It was,
Late.
1 in the morning or something, so we tabled this, and so it's, that you have seen it.
It's also really similar to that library material, but
Okay,
this
so
is
I think
about
that's what I'm thinking of.
curriculum instruction materials, so that's like a little bit
Gotcha.
different and enough to have a different policy.
Okay, thank you.
So
But
I
they're
don't,
largely very similar in terms of the mechanics.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
so thank you to the policy committee. I don't see any hands, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Right. Yeah. Personnel, somebody on page 27, we just have one.
I move that we accept the resignation of John Boyd, special educator at U32.
Thank you, Keely. Second by Ursula. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Can I,
Go ahead.
I have one personnel matter that would not normally come in front of the board, but I just want to inform you that our wonderful Melissa Tuller has accepted our accounts payable position, so she is moving positions on us, and we are posting, so you're bound to see a posting or something like that that is coming up for the executive assistant to the superintendent. And so she took the opportunity to start learning a new skill set, and we'll be working directly with Suzanne now. We will be sad to see her go. We're going to still work on keeping her as a clerk if we can. But I just wanted to make sure that you were informed of that, because Melissa is somebody that you have regular contact with. Once we get the hiring process going and we have a new person, we'll introduce that person to you as well. But we wish Melissa the absolute best in a new position. She's going to help transition that new person to it. And just a huge thank you for all the work that she has done for this district, both for me as a superintendent, past superintendents, for you as a board, for us as a community. She has been very much a giver of her time and her energies. And so I just want to make sure the board was aware of that as well. And so,
And
she's
we'll
not-
celebrate her at our February meeting, because she's not moving until March, is what your email said, right?
Yeah, she's got,
Yes.
well, we don't, the transition will occur once we have somebody
Okay.
transition to.
So we'll make sure to celebrate.
I'm holding on
as a
to her
board
till the
in
very end.
February. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Do you think we need someone else, Stephen?
well, just to answer Chris's emails and to get his materials together, we would probably need 2 people, but,
Oh, what did I tell you the last time, that all of the gray hair, Chris?
yeah.
Okay. Consent agenda. Do you want to move the minutes, Mr. Chris?
I would move to adopt this consent agenda.
Second by? Ursula?
Laura?
Yeah,
I have
Discussion.
one amendment to the minutes.
go ahead.
It said that I voted no, and I had voted yes on the proposal for the 3 schools.
What's that?
It says I voted no,
Oh,
and I had voted yes, so it looked like it was 7 to 6, and we were 8 to 5. On page
Okay.
33.
I didn't even notice. Thank you. Do you have that, Lisa? Go ahead, Zach.
A clarifying question. I don't know if this needs to be changed. I know that we changed the motions, removing the language about, ceasing to use for the schools for direct instruction to students. We have the motion, the correct motions for what we submitted to the voters. Did we also change that for the board motions or not? So it reads, I'll just do the Doty one. It says, we move to close the Doty Memorial School and cease using the Doty Memorial School facility for the purpose of providing direct instruction to students effective June 30th. And then what we approved to send to the voters was, shall the district close the Doty Memorial School effective June 30th, 2026. Did we clean up the language of that motion for the board's decisions as well, or just the ones for the voters?
It's the
No,
same
it's
motion.
not. There's another clause in there.
We cleaned them for both.
We cleaned it for both? Okay.
Yes,
so the
we
minutes
cleaned them
reflect
for both. Yeah.
Okay, so
And
move we amend the minutes as well to clean up the motion.
okay, thank you. Yeah, but we did clean it for both. It was just, it should read the same. Thank you, Zach. Chris?
So Zach, are you referring to page 33?
Yes.
And so the language that, I think we cleaned up the language from what we had. But this, I don't think is this language reflected in what we
That's what,
did tonight?
that's what he's saying to us right now, that we did not clean it. We did clean it in the motion, but that is not what the minutes reflect. No?
Say it again? Stephen?
What were the previous?
I don't think. The
No,
warning.
Are you asking about what we
this
warned?
is right, this is
The
right.
thing we
It's that
warned
what
is
he's
correct.
saying is the other one, the one that we did before. So this is right, this is, shall the Washington Central Unified School District close the Calais Elementary School effective June 30th, 2026? And then the same for the Doty.
And that's what's reflected in the
Memorial
minutes.
School.
Whereabouts?
Your page
It's
33?
above.
It's in italics.
So in 5.3, the first paragraph was the board's decision of do we approve the closure, and the second paragraph is what do we send to the voters, and those two are different.
Correct.
And I think that was just we cleaned up the minute we cleaned up what was to be sent to the voters, but the minutes didn't reflect cleaning up the motion for what the board decided itself.
Yeah. Do you have that, Lisa? Does that make sense? Can you go over there, Zach, so she can see it, because it'll be easier than. So that the minutes reflect it. Yeah.
Just a reminder to board members, when you're having these discussions, you do need to have them on the mic so that those that are online can hear.
You need to.
Yeah. If you can turn on the mic
Yeah,
there.
no, what I was proposing, Zach, is that you brought it to Lisa, not to Patrick.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Just so that she could see it, and it would make it easier for her.
And just
I
so
just want to
those-
make sure that she has it before we vote.
Yeah, so just for those online, our board member is speaking to our note taker.
Yeah.
Hybrid meetings.
Yeah. All set, Lisa? Okay. So all of those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the minutes carry. Okay, approved. Now moving into future agenda items. We still have several future agenda items. Anything that we want to add to that? And I know one of them is coming to us, so I'm looking at you, Ursula.
We owe you 2 reports from Ed Quality.
Yeah, coming up in our next meeting. Moving that next, since we miraculously are on time. Oh, Diane.
I think we can add, since negotiations is up and running, we could add negotiations as an ongoing agenda item.
Thank you, Diane.
Good point.
Go ahead.
One other item, I know that in December, some of us shadowed students at U32 and heard back from students asking, about opportunities to for further engagement on that, or potentially it would be worth having an agenda item at some point to talk for us, those of us who shadowed, to talk about that experience, potentially see if some of those students would be interested in coming as well. I think that could be valuable. So it's not just the individuals who went, but to also be able to share with the rest of the board some of what we learned from that experience.
Thank you, Zach. I'm just making a note. Anything else? Okay, now moving into board reflection before I open it to public comments. Seeing none, oops, one person, Natasha.
Diane has a hand up.
Oh, I just said, I saw Natasha is first and then Diane.
2 things. One, just to echo what Zach just said, I was able to go and shadow two different students, a 7th grader and a sophomore. So I had 2 very different experiences, but both of them were really wonderful. And I want to say thank you to those students for allowing me to awkwardly walk around them for half a day. And thank you to the teachers who were willing to let me sit in their classroom and, just kind of observe everything. But I think that if other school board members are able to definitely take advantage of that, because it really was a great experience to be able to be in there and talk to students and kind of just see what their day was like. So I wanted to say that. And then 2, I just wanted to reflect on our marathon meeting that we had back in December, but to reflect it, I think hopefully in a in a productive manner, which is we've had some really difficult conversations around budget and around configuration. And even though there were some bumpy parts in that meeting, I actually think that probably was one of the better meetings that we've had when we've had to deal with these kind of really, really difficult topics. And so I just wanted to say, like, I appreciated everybody's all the comments that all of the board members made, whether they agreed with me or not, or whether I agreed with them or not. But I think that we were able to have that conversation in as productive and a manner as we possibly could have, considering how high tension those two topics were.
Thank you, Natasha. Diane?
I just wanted to give another shout out to Spencer. There have been virtual meetings that have been really hard to hear when there are people from the audience speaking and then individual board members, as well as to be able to see. But this was tremendous, and I could hear and see everything. So really great appreciation for the work that goes into that.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Spencer. It's pretty awesome. Michaela?
Since there are Worcester people watching, I do just want to say that, again, I'm not running for my seat in March again. It was a hard decision to make. I'm actually really going to miss this, but it's the best decision for my family at this point in time. But I would love for someone great to step up, and I know there are a lot of great people in Worcester, so get your name on the ballot. And then also I just want to, put in my mindset has really shifted over the last 5 years, and really embraced the idea of us as one big community, one big district. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. It's really emotional talking about the things we've been talking about, but, these kids are all our kids. They're all going to end up at U32 together, so we want to take good care of U32 also. So just keeping that in mind, what's best for our whole community. We really are one community. So, and I really appreciate all of you, and I second everything Natasha said. We've had some really difficult conversations, and I think, we all really respect each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Okay, I'm going to open it to public comment. Please raise your hand whether you are here or online. Go ahead. We have a mic. You might want to bring your chair because you're tall, but do what you must.
The Elvis Presley. I first want to thank Michelle for finding that typo. It was confusing at best. I want to thank Ursula for clarifying what your all's role is when meeting with the community on the informational meeting. It's informational. It's not time to lobby and tell people or imply how people should vote. They know that the budget's important to the school. They all know, and what form it takes, it's going to be the community's decision. And lastly, at that informational meeting, I think it's important. Well, I agree the board, it should be seen as one entity supporting the majority vote. It's important just to let the community know that it was an 8-5 vote and leave it at that. And if folks want to pull board members aside or call them at home and have them explain their vote either way, that's fine. But I think it's important people need to know. It would be wrong for people to come away thinking it's unanimous. Everyone's vote was important, and I think it should be registered. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have more questions, but I have a different perspective on that, having been on many boards, and it's always a debate on boards. But I think anybody who voted no are also representing our communities. And I think that if somebody asks them why they voted no, because not everybody attended that meeting that lasted I left at 11:30, so I got out early, but I think it's important for them to make that statement. But that is a debated perspective at every board I've served on, which is quite a few. I have a couple clarification questions. Is it true, it's my understanding that there will be no impact on the property tax in Calais or in Worcester, whether there's a 3 or 5 school configuration? I guess that's for the superintendent, but that's, I just want to clarify because I am using that information. Is that accurate?
We haven't recalculated with our new numbers, but the budgets that we presented 2A and 2B had very little difference in the tax impact. That is correct.
Okay, it was for a $300,000 house, it was $6 in Worcester and $13.50 in Calais. So I consider that insignificant. In those budgets that we looked at, just for clarification, there was a $70,000 difference between 3 and 5 school configuration and close to a $37 million budget. Is that correct?
That is correct. We kept our spending, that was to keep within our spending parameters set by the board.
I understand. I just don't like, I'm a person who likes to use figures accurately, so I didn't. I was unclear, but it seemed that there were no actual reductions in administrative staff between the 3 and 5 model schools. Is that correct? Or is there, I've heard different debates about how they're used, but if you're having an assistant principal where there's only a principal in the schools, that doesn't change that administrative position.
Overall, we do have a reduction in administrative staff across the district, no matter which budget you look at.
But not in the high school. I'm just talking about the elementary schools. I'm not talking about the high school.
No, the elementary schools would not.
Not have any reduction. Okay.
In the numbers of administrators.
Okay. And is there any reduction in the supervisory union administrative staff?
Not in the administrative staff, no.
Okay. I just want to underline that because Act 73, and it's going to happen in one way if you hear the governor today, whether you like what he had to say or not. Our district, I believe, is 1,250 students. That's not going to slide in anybody's decision-making, so we're not going to remain in the community of 1,250. It's going to change. So and the recommendations are that the kinds of cuts that need to happen in consolidation is in middle and high school. So at least I'm new to all of this, but a quick learner and follow things. I had, let me see, just hold on for 1 second. I know I got a 90-second, but I can't read without my glasses. So, I just wanted to say to the superintendent that which I was involved in to some extent, that when the complete rebuild of U32 was done, it was actually built for 1,250 students and permitted for 950. So what's the student population of East Montpelier, Calais combined? Is it somewhere like 250 or something like that?
You talk about the student population, kindergarten through 6th grade?
Yeah, for Calais and?
Approximately 250. Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to have a principal and assistant principal. We have one of the smallest school districts in the state. How does our budget compare with other school districts of our size or slightly bigger? Do you have any idea?
I would have to do research to get the exact numbers on that.
Okay, because I know, and I'm not taking anything, I know what it is to work a 24/7 job, so I appreciated your comments. But I know that our budgets, from what I've looked at, are considerably higher than, other than Chittenden County, than the rest of the schools. And I know that this is what the governor has been talking about, and every legislator I've been talking about, is if we're going to make cuts, we're going to have to make them in the supervisory unit staff. So I think we all know that. And Linda Gray mentioned this, and I think it's really true. We really want to tackle the problem with school budgets. The state's got to step up and pay for health care and special ed. That's the only way you guys are really going to be able to deal with education. And it doesn't take somebody who's been in administration too long to know that's what we should all be talking to the legislators about, because they're pitting us against each other and not allowing us to really have quality education. And as I said before, quality education is defined by different people from different perspectives. Never forget that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yes, yes.
No? We can answer one.
Well, Michaelan had asked about the impact of the early college students, and so I have that answer. There's 18 early college students in our long-term ADM. I know you were pointing at 23, but that's just for the current year. And we're held harmless for 12.3, so 5.7 is really what we lose in our ADM for that.
And what does that mean monetarily?
It's like $16,000 per student, so 5.7 students. I don't have it in my head right now.
I mean, I feel like you can do that in your head.
I'm not that good.
100,000.
You're our math person.
About 100,000.
About like 93,000.
Yeah, 91.
5.7 students? Yeah. 5.6 students?
It's about $92,000.
Yeah, I got 89,000.
Okay. All right. So
We have a comment up on the.
oh, one more. Denise, do you want to unmute?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Oh, go ahead. Introduce
Thank you for
yourself
your-
and go ahead.
Thank you for everything all of you have done. I know this has not been easy, but Floor mentioned that it's a sort of like an all for one and one for all. So my question is, or maybe it's just a statement, is that if board members are asked how they voted and why, should they not be honest? Because I think it's really, people want to know how the board members that they voted for voted for this project. So I'd like to have a clarity that you're not suggesting that people not be honest about their vote and why. Is that correct?
That's correct. I would never ask anybody to not be honest. I think that is very different to, standing behind the decision of the board, right? You can be honest with yourself and honest to how you made a decision. Like, for example, I, as a board chair, did not vote in that meeting because I didn't need to break a tie. I very much on favor of that.
No,
So
that's
it's
not
about-
that's not my question, Floor. My question is, or my statement is, if I ask a board member how they voted, I expect them to be honest. And if I
Yeah,
ask them
absolutely.
why,
Absolutely.
I
They
just
can-
wanted to make sure that you clarified that because it sounded like you wanted people to not state their opinion or their vote and why. That's what I took away from what you said.
So Denise, we have our individual integrity, and I don't think any one of us would not tell the truth about how we voted if asked about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what I
And-
wanted to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, but
Chris?
that also doesn't mean that they wouldn't support a decision of the board, right, Chris?
Right, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, the board as a whole voted, but
Yeah, thank you. Felicia?
Hi, sorry. I don't know if it's been answered yet, but how does the district decides where the budget cuts will come from? How are they decided?
So the budget process as a whole is done with the administrators across the district, and they work with their staffs as well to determine first what the needs are of our students, and we try to meet all of those needs. But in the event that we have to make cuts, the individual schools are looking at their cuts based upon the finances of that school, essentially.
And if Callis and Doty are closed, who decides where those cuts are coming from? Since we're going to consolidate is what the plan is, how do we decide which teachers are going to keep their jobs?
So I think you had a couple of questions there to answer, and they're great questions. The first one is our principals have been working together between the schools that are consolidating, and so every discussion about Callis and East Montpelier have been between the two principals at those schools about programming and what they're going to offer. We've done that with both of the schools, and we've worked together with Berlin because Berlin also has some adjustments as well. The other question is, how do we determine which teachers are cut? That is a seniority basis that's determined through our contract. And so we follow all of our contract language around how that works for any either transfers, which is some of our teachers, or reductions, which could be others. And so there's language in our contract that covers all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands in here or in online. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Ursula?
I move that we adjourn.
Second by?
A second.
Okay, thank you. Zach, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you. No.